So today we're going to be doing a tier list ranking for not all of the dark side powers because there's so many from like Legends and the board games and also video, not to mention video games. But before we kind of get into that, I wanted to take a second because most of the time I don't really do a lot of like Star Wars news, right? I'm not really one of the news outlet channels. I think there's a lot of channels that do it way better than I could ever do it. So I just kind of stay away from news, talking about stuff here and there. But you know, this week we had a pretty big hit on the Star Wars community, and the legend James Earl Jones passed away, and I as a fan and as he was one of my childhood heroes. I would feel remiss if I didn't at least speak on it just a little bit, before we get into this tier list ranking. And that was kind of the main catalyst for this tier list ranking, is kind of pay a little bit of homage to the Dark Lord himself, Darth Vader, James Earl Jones. Growing up for me personally with my childhood, I grew up with a learning disability, which I still have to this day. It'll never go away, and dyslexia. And James Earl Jones also had that, but he, instead of having a learning disability, or maybe he did, I don't know, he had a stutter. And I saw he was very successful and overcame that, becoming the voice of Darth Vader and having plenty of other roles, like from The Lion King. For me, Sandlot was a really big inspiration and a really big part of my childhood. I loved that movie, and he's the main baseball player guy at the end that has the beast, the hound. He has that's his backyard. So yeah, I'm gonna keep it short, keep it sweet, but we definitely lost one of the, I would say, dare to say, one of the major voices of like our generation and our parents' generation. So it's a pretty big deal, and I hope that the force is with him, so to speak, and that his family's doing okay and that he's doing okay. I think he died at 93, so he lived a very long life, very very fulfilling life, at least in my opinion. I obviously didn't know him personally, but just from the roles that he had, he seemed like he was a very happy and bright spirited individual. So, like I said, I just wanted to keep it short, but this week and this PMP's Din transmission is definitely dedicated to him, and just the inspiration that I know he gave me growing up as a kid, and also many of you. I know he impacted a lot of people. So, James Earl Jones, may the force be with you, and I hope you're in a better place. But let's get into it. Enough with the kind of the sad stuff, right? The mopey stuff. We're gonna get into some cool force abilities. So, oh, what's up, Charlie? I didn't see you in the chat. Appreciate you stopping in and hanging out. Got the rose and the candle. Appreciate you spreading the love. I know he was a big impact for you too, growing up. So yeah, we're gonna get right into it. So for this, you guys know how tier list ranking works. Force Unleashed is gonna be, so how I'm ranking this is how cool I think the force abilities are, and my own head. So this is my own, like, what I think is cool, and there's no like, oh well, this one's more powerful than this one. It's just discussing force abilities and having a good time. And I'm curious to see what you guys say and how you guys see my ranking and what your ranking is as well. So we're gonna do, yeah, Force Unleashed is the main one. Sith Masters second tier, obviously, and Sith Lord still being the third tier. Which Sith Lord's still good. None of these abilities are bad in my opinion. I would gladly have any of these force abilities. Some definitely more useful than others, and some more badass, so to speak, than others. But we're gonna start. I started off strong with the Force Choke. Probably, I would say, the most iconic force ability, other than like just moving stuff. Everybody that I've seen in their photos and all, everybody goes to the Force Choke, or they do some sort of resemblance. Vader, and I would say 90% of the pictures that he's in, whether it be wallpapers or anything like that, he's always doing the Force Choke. So just because I feel like it's such an iconic force ability, I think I'm gonna have to put it in Force Unleashed, just because of how iconic it is. Like I said, you're doing like the Jedi mind trick, or you're doing like the force to move objects, but the Force Choke is definitely iconic. First thing we see in the movies, yeah, that is true. First thing we see in the movies is him just choking the crap out of somebody. But next we have Force Repulse, and we haven't really seen that a whole bunch in like movies and things like that. I mean, obviously, looking from the picture right here, that you guys can see Starkiller. He's a big proponent of using the Force Repulse, and if anybody knows those trailers when the second game came out, where he's in the forest and he's just mowing down stormtroopers left and right, and then just disintegrates all of them. Super cool ability, super cool. But I'm trying to think of like where else we see it in Star Wars. I'm blanking on, maybe you guys in chat, maybe Charlie or anybody else who's watching would know, but I don't think we've seen it in live action. I know in the Vader and Obi-Wan fight in Kenobi, he kind of does like a ground kind of repulse, right? Where like it makes Kenobi like fall into like this giant like warp kind of like hole. But I'm trying to think of like what other thing we've seen it. I'm sure we've seen it in I'm not a huge comic guy and book, but I'm sure we've seen it. Yeah, it was in the Kenobi final. Yeah. But I don't know where else we've seen that ability. But I don't know, man. Force Repulse is cool. I loved using it in the Force Unleashed. Definitely, I think there's cooler abilities out there. I mean, it is maybe if I see it like in live action somewhere, other than like the Kenobi show, because like Vader kind of did it like again with the ground. I think I might put this one in Sith Master. Ooh, then we got the Force Scream, which everybody knows that iconic scene where in Revenge of the Sith where Palpatine, he's just like, it's treason then, and then just does this blood curdling scream, which for those who don't know or were maybe confused by that, basically essentially what that scream is that it's so loud. Imagine getting hit with like a flashbang and then your ears are ringing, you're all discombobulated. That's why he did it, is to he was outnumbered, right, by the whole members of the Jedi Council. So in order to kind of get that advantage back, he's doing the Force Scream. Hey, Stanley's, what's going on, man? Appreciate you being here and hanging out with us, talking about some dark side Sith power. Darth Sidious and Maul. Maul uses it. Okay. I don't remember him. When does Maul use it, Charlie? I'm blanking on. Was it in like a comic book or something like that he used it? I don't think he used it in Clone Wars. I know there's been a few times where like other people have used it in the I know in the Old Republic there's a lot of Old Republic, and then in KOTOR, Knights of the Old Republic, which was for Xbox. I know you could pick that ability up and use it against your enemies. Season 7, which one? Oh, when he's fighting Ahsoka. Yeah, Maul versus Ahsoka. Okay, yeah. See, I didn't know if he did that or if that was just like imitating Palpatine doing it. You know how they have like in Season 7 when they've captured Maul and they're in hyperspace on the freighter, the Venator, and like Ahsoka can hear like Anakin talking and like Mace Windu and Darth Maul. Like I thought that was kind of like something similar with that at the beginning when Maul was fighting Ahsoka. But if he did it there too, that would be pretty sick. I'm not gonna lie. Of course, I'm a huge Darth Maul fan, so I'm cool for that. But I don't know. I'm trying to think of where it is a cool ability. I don't know if it's quite to the Force Unleashed. I mean, it is pretty sick, but we just don't see it enough for me. So I think I'm gonna put it maybe above Force. Ooh, if I can, if it'll let me. It's gonna go above Force Repulse, just for the sake of Darth Maul using it and Palpatine using it alone. But yeah, that one's a good one. Next we have Shatterpoint, which I know Mace Windu is the master of Shatterpoint, and he is a Jedi, right? And this is dark side abilities. But I felt like it was okay because he uses Vapod, which, for those who don't know what Vapod is a special form. Like, there's 7 forms, and this was like an extra form where Mace Windu channeled both dark side and light side energy, and kind of it was really hard to do. It was very forbidden. Like, he didn't teach anybody. He tried to teach Quinlan Voss and a couple other apprentices that wanted to learn the form, and it was just no goes. No, he was like, nope. He's like, you don't have what it takes to not, because the dark side tempts you, and it's like that's the whole point of it being so, like, the reason why it's so hard is because you can succumb to the dark side extremely easily. But essentially what Shatterpoint was a part of Vapod where you could see like the weaknesses in like armor or in structures. It was almost like a think about it in like a video game terminology where like you click a button and then it scans everything. It shows you where all like the enemies are and where they're walking. Assassin's Creed does it a lot. It's called Eagle Vision. You can like see where all the enemies are moving, stuff you can pick up and not pick up, and like hidden items and things like that. It's essentially that. Call back to the 2003 Clone Wars, where Mace Windu is like all the force powers are cranked up to 11. He's fighting. He loses his lightsaber in one of the battles, and you just see him basically start beating the crap out of B1 battle droids just like as fast as he can with his hands. And it's the reason why he was able to do that is because he saw all the weak points, and the battle droids and B1 battle droids were like super fast manufactured. It was supposed to be, the numbers of them were supposed to overwhelm you, but they were really faulty and had a lot of problems. And he expedited, or not expedited, he used that to his advantage to basically just tear them to shreds. And this one's definitely going to be Force Unleashed category for me. I don't know if it's quite iconic or quite as badass as the Force Choke, but man, do I really like Shatterpoint. I think that's a really cool ability, being able to see all the weaknesses, and I don't know, it's just super cool. Let's see what you guys are saying. You guys are popping off in the chat. Revan and Mace had this. Oh, okay, so I didn't know that Revan also had Shatterpoint. That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, I didn't know that. My EU knowledge and Old Republic knowledge is basically tied to like the video games, but I never beat Knights of the Old Republic 1 or 2, so if it was said in that, maybe I just don't know, because I never beat detective mode. But in Star Wars, yeah, he's got the bat sonar. Revan is better with Shatterpoint. He used it to beat the Mandalorians in the Old Republic. Oh, okay. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I know a lot of these actually abilities are from like the Old Republic. The Old Republic, I feel like, was like the height of like force abilities and like learning different ways, and it's also the era where a lot of that stuff got lost. I feel like that was almost like the pinnacle for like force powers, and that's why like I feel like Revan is almost so highly regarded, because he does. I feel like, I don't know if he does use Vapod. Maybe you guys can correct me on that, but it would make sense, seeing as he was both from he was a Jedi during the Mandalorian Wars, and then he turned into a Sith and then back to a Jedi. So did he use also Vapod too? I don't, like I said, I'm not super knowledgeable on Revan or really the Old Republic. The little that I do know is from the Old Republic MMO, and then the Knights of the Old Republic video games from Xbox. He used it to know which leaders to assassinate using HK-47. Oh, okay. So he's putting in work with HK-47. He's like, oh, I know. He's like, I know the way. But yeah, so that's gonna be, Shatterpoint's definitely gonna be a higher up there ability for me. Now the next one is, I hadn't really heard about this one, and I didn't really know what exactly it was until I did, because I was doing some research for this, because there's a lot of force abilities and legends that never see the light of day in canon. But it's called Force Storm, and we get to see this a little bit, or at least what I imagine it is, in Rise of Skywalker, when Palpatine aims his fingers up in the air and basically shoots lightning into the sky, and it just rains force lightning down everywhere, causing like literally everything to malfunction and like just mess up to shreds. But I also have kind of like, I pulled up, and before we get into the Wikipedia page, yes, I know Wikipedia is not the most credible source out there, and I know that a lot of this information, just like Wikipedia, can somebody can go in and edit whatever they want to. I know that it's not the best source, but just for the sake of simplicity and me doing this, I felt like it was okay, you know. But so it says Force Storm was a volatile dark power, force power capable of creating hyperspace wormholes, which that's pretty wild. Now Palpatine didn't do that necessarily. It says that he knew how to do it though. I've never read the Book of Anger, which I think is just Palpatine describing the dark side and how he like was basically giving himself to the dark side. But the ability to create hyperspace wormholes seems pretty crazy of a force ability, and I can see why maybe they that stuck to a little bit more Legends, because that just seems a little bit OP being able to like create a wormhole. And I don't even want to think about how much of like mastery of the force. Yeah, see, because even it says here once it was incredibly difficult to control once unleashed and required mastery in many different force disciplines. Like that seems pretty crazy, and we'll get to some crazy ones too here because there's obviously like way more as we go along. But yeah, I wanted to pull that up and kind of I have a few on here that I'm gonna read for you guys. But yeah, to be the ability to, as I it's no secret that I didn't really care for the sequel trilogy. It's just not for me. But I did think that that was a really cool ability that Palpatine had enough Force energy. Not only did he have enough Force energy, but he had enough Force energy of being like a clone or like a dupe. Like I guess yeah. I guess it would be a clone because he transferred his essence into Snoke, and then he had himself cloned because his original body was dispersed. But being able to shoot lightning into the sky and basically just rain down lightning across, I don't even know how, like a huge fleet, everybody was failing and stuff like that. So this one, I think I am going to put in Sith Lord just because it is a Legends thing. And not that there's anything wrong with Legends, but I think there is cooler stuff out there that we're gonna go over continuing. So see what you guys are blowing up the chat. I appreciate you guys, Stanley and Charlie, coming in here and freaking just spitting knowledge. I always appreciate you guys. I think during the Revan Rebirth novel, you're talking about Shatterpoint. Okay. Oh, I didn't know that Force Storm Darth Bane. Well, we're going to get to a cool Darth Bane Force ability a little bit further on, Charlie, so stay tuned for that. Palps knew how to make it, but couldn't control it properly, and he killed himself a couple of times. Oh, man. Yeah, because I think that he was doing that in the Dark Empire series, right? I think that's what I read, that the times that he did try it was the Dark Empire series, because he like clones himself and does essence transfer and like force transfer into like different bodies. So that would make sense. That would totally make sense. Charlie, he's like, oh, crap, I will be right back. Well, hey man, we're gonna be here breaking it down till you get back, man. Breaking it down. But the next ability is Force Crush, which pretty much everybody, like Jedi, have this ability too, but I feel like this is definitely in line with more Sith values. I feel like we don't see a crazy amount of Jedi use this. Like I guess the only one that I'm thinking about off the top of my head is also in the 2003 Clone Wars, where Mace Windu crushes General Grievous's like box, like his like chest box, chest piece, and that's why he has the cough in Revenge of the Sith, is because like he literally got like all his organs and all his main vitals like got crushed by Mace Windu. But I feel like this is definitely more of a dark side power. I would say the most notable one for me is Revenge of the Sith, just because I've seen it so many times. But when Vader hears that he killed Padme, he basically goes crazy and crushes everything in the room, all the life support, all that stuff. And then I believe in the comic, he actually throws Palpatine up against the wall and like crushes him into like the wall and stuff like that. And then Palpatine just unloads Force lightning on him. And one of the, I don't read a whole bunch of comics, but there are a few that I've read that I'm like, oh man, that's sick. So, Force Crush, again, another iconic ability. I think we're going to put it right underneath Shatterpoint, because Shatterpoint's just so freaking cool. And, like, who doesn't want Shatterpoint, right? Who doesn't want Shatterpoint? But next, we have Force Lightning. And this one, it's easy peasy, man. For me, it's going to. If I were to have one dark side ability, I think Force Lightning would be it, just because of I don't know, it's just so cool. I like that there's like the different colors. We got Force Judgment, which was actually ability used by Plo Koon and some of the Jedi of the Old Republic, where it's a little bit different. It doesn't work the exact same as like traditional like Sith lightning, but it was like yellow instead of blue. And then we see in the Mortis arc of Clone Wars, the sun uses red lightning, which I would love an explanation. Maybe they just did it because it looks cool, but I would love like an explanation or like a power scale between like yellow lightning, blue lightning, and then like red lightning. And you could even, I guess, argue that like the blue lightning is also a little purple, like a little purple. But like, I wonder what causes. Maybe you guys in the chat know with some EU knowledge or anything like that. But I'm wondering what causes the differentiation between blue lightning, red lightning, and yellow lightning. Because I think that would be cool. Because the only time we see Force Judgment with Plo Koon is in Jedi Power Battles. Shout out to JT, because he loves those Jedi Power Battles. But yeah, you can use Force Judgment, I believe, in that game as Plo Koon. But it was frowned upon by the council, and they told him like, "Hey, bro, you gotta kind of chill with that, because that's more of a dark side ability. We don't know if we're cool with you using that." Anything from taser strength to disintegration. Yeah, I guess so. Because like what? Like I guess Force Judgment would be more on the side of like the taser. It's supposed to. Maybe it's weird because like you have Force Judgment, which shoots the yellow lightning, but you also have like Force like stasis, I guess, where like you see like Kylo Ren or like even Cal Kestis use it where you can physically like stop somebody. So if you have like Force stasis, like what's the point of like using Force Judgment outside of it just looks really cool? And maybe that's what the council decided, is that like, hey, like there's not really a super need for this ability, so maybe you just shouldn't use it because it kind of seems like it's more of a dark side ability. So if there's no really need for the Force Judgment other than like subduing an enemy, maybe you don't use it. But next we have Force Bleeding, which is something that's pretty cool. I personally like it. I grew up where the crystals were the crystals that powered, or like kyber crystals that powered the lightsabers. The Sith, like they made theirs. They were synthetic. They were fake. But I don't know when. I want to say this is a Disney move, actually, because I want to say this comic came out after Disney had bought Star Wars. But Disney made it to where, or whoever made the comic book that was given permission by Disney, made it to where you have to pour all your anger and your hatred into the crystal. So, and you can see by the image here, it's like going all crazy. There's electricity everywhere. It like in the comic, it almost like freaking kills Vader with how like explosive it is. And I think it's really cool that they like. I feel like it's more Sith fitting to where they have to pour all their anger and hatred and just like everything that's gone wrong and literally make the crystal like bleed in order for it to like. That's like the final like Sith trial, right? So I don't know. I like it better than the synthetic. But you guys let me know in the comics down below if you're watching it right now, or if you're watching it years from now, or whatever you're doing. Let me know what you think is better, the synthetic crystal or the bleeding of the crystal. I think we're going to actually put this one in Sith Master, and I think we're going to put it at the top because I like it better than Force Screaming and Repulse. So we're gonna go into this one, and this next one is actually really interesting. So I had to look this one up because I think it comes from there's a good chunk of force powers that come from like the tabletop Star Wars video game, where that it established a lot of like EU style stuff. But Force Slow, which we're going to We're gonna go back to our handy dandy Wikipedia, our Wikipedia, I should say, because I didn't realize not only is there Force Slow, but there's like alternate versions of Force Slow. So Force Slow was a dark side Force power used by Sith and Dark Jedi around 4000 BBY. That's before the Battle of Yavin, if you didn't know. Force exhaustion was a variant of this power used by Jedi Guardians during the Cold War and the Galactic War. So essentially, what this was is while you were in battle, it would basically cloud whoever you're fighting, cloud their mind, causing them to slow down both like mentally and physically. So um, it's almost like almost like a spell, almost right, to where like it just really wears down the user over time. And what I thought was cool was is so Force Slow is like the main one, right? Like that's like the kind of like the entry level ability. And then you have Forced Affliction, which is a variant of Force Slow, which it basically, like it's described here, Forced Affliction worked much like a fast acting poison, quickly debilitating the target. The effects of affliction worsened over time and may cause death even if the user was strong enough in the Force, which I think they got this from the KOTOR games because I believe that I remember there was a dark side ability where you could like basically cause that to happen, like Force Affliction and Force Plague over because it was kind of a turn-based style game. I know it for sure that it was in the MMORPG, but yeah, and then you got Force Plague, which was the most powerful version of kind of the three. It's like almost like different Saiyan levels. It's like you got like Super Saiyan, then you got Super Saiyan 1, then you got Super Saiyan 2, it's so it kind of like levels up. So Force Plague was the most powerful Force version, was the more powerful version of Affliction. Plague worked like a fast-acting toxin, horribly debilitating its victim. The effect of Plague continued to worsen over time, and this is where it's bringing in Knights of the Old Republic. It says, Darth Treya and Darth Nihilus attempted to use this technique against Mitra Surik, and they're both from the Jedi Knight game, the Knights of the Old Republic 2. That's where they're from. So it definitely was. This is more of a obviously non-canon version, but they have mentioned Force Slow. I feel like in some of the like the video games and even in the movies you can kind of like feel it. Like for instance, I'm blanking. I was like, oh, it was like this. Actually, no, I think it was in Clone Wars. One of the I want to say it was Dooku who was using it against somebody to like basically like slow down and like, but I can't remember. Sedative to poison. Yeah. Because I think the one I was thinking about was when Dooku gets attacked by the Night Sisters. I don't remember what season it was. It was definitely one of the later seasons after he basically kicks Ventress to the curb. But I think they actually hit him with a poison dart. So it's not exactly the same thing. Oh, what's up, Percy? I didn't see you pop in here, man. Going back to what you were. Oh, so you're talking about the crystal. So we're going back to the crystals. I'm a synthetic crystal guy all the way. Maybe not Luke's green lightsaber, but I like the red ones being synthetic, because the dark side was so unnatural. That's fair. That's fair. No, I mean I don't think the Jedi always got their crystals from. Oh man, why am I blanking on the name of the home planet where the Jedi's get their crystals from? What is it? You guys help me out. Help me out with the name right now. I swear, after this move, I haven't been able to. My brain has just been mush. Ilum, thank you, Stanley's. Stanley's is my lore master over here. Yeah, so they got all their stuff from Ilum. I don't know if it's confirmed, but Luke got his green lightsaber supposedly from Qui-Gon. I know that they had like kind of like sprinkled that in there somewhere. I don't think that's like 100% confirmed, but that's my headcanon. Is like I think that would be cool if like they said that like Yoda, like the blanket that he's covering up with was like Qui-Gon's robe, and that he gave, because we see in the Mandalorian that Yoda's lightsaber still works, so it wasn't Yoda's crystal by any means, but he had to have gotten it from somewhere. Starkiller Base, yeah, the sequel, because they used which that's something that I wish they would have just described a little bit better, is having Starkiller Base be Ilum. Like you kind of learn that from like the books and like the extra stuff. Like we don't really know that from the movie, which would have been, I think, a cooler tie-in to that. It used to be that he made the green one synthetic, is what I was getting at. Oh, so that was like the original like OG canon, was that he made it synthetically. I didn't know that. I didn't know that they. I just always figured he, because there's so much time in between Empire and Return of the Jedi, that he just maybe went to Ilum or like found some records where the Jedi got their stuff, and that's where he got it. Ahsoka does have a bunch of spare lightsaber parts and crystals. Yeah, I guess that's true too, but he meets Ahsoka after everything. Like he already has his lightsaber already made. Because I don't. Oh, wait, no, that's not true. Because Ahsoka gets brought back before the events of A New Hope, right? Or no, I'm wrong. No, she gets brought back. I don't know. Maybe I don't remember. Does she get brought back before the events of A New Hope, or does she get brought back after Return of the Jedi? Because she doesn't know what happens to Vader, and like how Vader turned to the light side, and that I'm pretty sure she gets. Maybe I'm wrong on that. I don't remember off the top of my head, but I want to say she gets brought back afterwards. But you guys let me know in the chat. But let me go back to the. Go back. So yeah, Force Slow, cool ability. I'm definitely gonna put it underneath into Sith Lord category, because like it is cool, but it kind of also seems like a cheap Force ability. Like you can't win with like Force powers, or like it kind of seems like one of those abilities that like you're losing, so you do that to kind of like get the edge over everybody, and to slow your opponent down. She's in Rebels a lot. I'm sure you're just blanking on it. Yeah, I am blanking on it, man. I don't know. Um, I know she's in Rebels a lot, but I just don't know when Ezra brings her back. Which I guess he has to bring, because all these events happen before the war ends, right? Or before the war even starts with the rebels, because and rebels, they're like the first they're like the first rebels, along with like a Rogue One and all that stuff. So she definitely gets bought back before A New Hope, right? So I don't know. Maybe she did give it to Luke. Who knows? But the next Force ability is actually one that's pretty interesting. So I haven't read the Darth Bane novel. It's definitely on my list. It's something that I want to read. But he's known for what is called the Thought Bomb. And for those who don't know what the Thought Bomb is, because I had to also kind of do my own research on it, because it's kind of weird how it works. But apparently, let me go here. Apparently, the Thought Bomb was a result and of an ancient ritual that, through the focused willpower of many unidentified Sith Lords, unleashed a volatile. Man, I cannot talk tonight. Unleashed the full validity of the dark side of the Force. When detonated, the Thought Bomb annihilated anything within like the span of what the Thought Bomb could create. And this is interesting because like it kind of goes along the lines of like what I feel like is like Sith alchemy, which I feel like they dabble in. They dabble in it in Rebels, Palpatine trying to get into like the world between worlds, and then they dabble in it in Clone Wars when I think it's like the last episode of Clone Wars before they decided to cancel the show. Palpatine and Dooku try to like kind of trick Yoda and cloud his judgment even more, and kind of almost make him turn to the dark side a little bit. And we don't get to see a lot of Sith alchemy, because even what like the Night Sisters use isn't really like, it's along the same like parallels as like Sith alchemy, but it's not the same. So this one, yeah, the thought bomb is dope. Yeah, yeah, that's for sure. And I'm excited to read it once I actually do get around to reading the Plagueis novel. But I definitely feel like this one is it's a pretty OP move, and one that was kind of lost in time. It was one of those, again, another one of those like old Republic, kind of like right after the old Republic things that just got lost. I think it was, I want to say they said it was either Bane or Revan that like basically locked the knowledge away in a like forgotten temple, and then like it would just remain there forever. Because like I can't even imagine somebody with like the Sith capabilities of like Palpatine trying to get a hold of this and just like literally annihilating all of the force sensitive people. And from my understanding is it traps them in kind of like this vortex pearl kind of thing. You see it here. They're like, you see the pearl kind of, and it traps them in it, and they can be released, but basically torments them. You basically get like, from my knowledge, is like you get sucked into essentially what I would imagine would be hell, and you get like tortured and stuff like that, which is pretty gnarly of a Sith ability. So I think we're gonna put it. I think I'm gonna put it somewhere in between Shatterpoint and Force Choke, just because that man that is that is a cool ability, you know. But next we have Force Drain, which we also don't see a lot of Force Drain. We see it a little bit with Darth Nihilus in the Old Republic trilogy, and I think I have a doc pulled up. Let me pull that back up. Yeah, Force Drain. Ooh, hold on, you guys are talking about the thought bomb. Let me see. Bane tricks the Sith army of the darkness to take out the Jedi mutual destruction. Wait. Take out Jedi mutual destruction. Bane learned it from Revan, the Sith holocron. Yeah, okay, so Revan hid it away and Bane found it. Okay, that makes sense. But yeah, I know he pulled like basically like a 4D chess move and just annihilated everybody and just got rid of the Sith army of darkness, got rid of all the Jedi. Just he won. Checkmate for sure. I think I'm Stanley's. I missed your comment before. I'm pretty sure Ahsoka returns before the OT. Rebels is set before the OT. Only the final scene with the mural and Ahsoka in the Ahsoka show. Yeah, see, that's what I was thinking too. So yeah, I guess she definitely could have given Luke his green crystal. I don't think so though. I want to say Ahsoka was probably off doing something else, or at least that we know of, right? Because I don't think Yoda and Obi-Wan would put as much emphasis on Luke and Leia if Ahsoka was still around. So Ahsoka had to be somewhere, like unobtainable or unreachable, because why wouldn't she be able to? And maybe that was just, you know, maybe that was just like a loophole or something like that within in the series, because I know Ahsoka was originally supposed to die, or at least that's what George Lucas had, that she perished at the hands of Order 66 was essentially supposed to take out everybody, and now they're kind of changing that a little bit with more and more people surviving. But to be honest, I was speculating. What about the holocron thing or about the Ahsoka thing? Because yeah, we don't have information about Ahsoka like yet. Like, yes, it is Rebels is before, because I know Rebels is set like right before, like I think like 5-10 years before the original trilogy, because we see Luke like running back to the Lars homestead and the Obi-Wan and Maul fight. He's just like a little kid, so it's like, you know, 5-10 years before all those events. But yeah, Ahsoka helping. Yeah, okay, Ahsoka helping Luke with the lightsaber. I mean, it would be a cool thing. I'm not gonna lie, it would be a cool thing to have her kind of give him the lightsaber, but at the same time, like, I feel like she would have to be detained somewhere or something, because like it would create a plot hole with what like Yoda and Obi-Wan were saying, that like, oh, like that boy is our only hope, as he's like flying away to go rescue Han and Leia on Cloud City, and then Yoda's like, no, there is another. But like, we always got the inference that like that was Leia, right? But maybe, I don't know, maybe they were mentioning there's like others. Well, but he doesn't say others though, so I don't know. It's possible that Obi-Wan had spare crystals in his home. Yeah, I think that also, because didn't also Obi-Wan have schematics on like how to build a lightsaber, Wasn't that like in like the deleted scene in Return of the Jedi where like Luke is like assembling his lightsaber and he learns how to assemble it from like schematics that like Obi-Wan had in his like old hut. I want to say that was it. But yeah, let's go back to, I know we've been kind of derailing a little bit. Let's go back to the force abilities, force drain. So the force abilities such as force drain or dark healing siphon vitals, vitality to sometimes offer an equivalent effect of force healing. The difference being the regenerative process in the user was fueled drain from targets. Okay, so you see this a lot too in like Palpatine, right? When going back to like the Rise of Skywalker, Palpatine drains the essence essentially from Rey and Ben at that point because he's no longer Kylo Ren, and he is able to, you know, his skin comes back. Somehow his clothes change. We don't know how his clothes change, but he obviously like it rejuvenates more than just his skin, and he basically becomes a younger version of himself, which is a cool ability within itself. Again, we get to see Darth Nihilus kind of use it. I know there's been other people. I know Vitiate, who was from the Old Republic, again too. I know he was alive for hundreds of years, if not thousands of years, and I think he used something that was very similar in that. So I think we're also going to put this one in Sith Lord just because it's cool. We'll put it in between. We'll put it in between these two because it is cool, but it's not. I don't think it's as cool as some of these other Force abilities. The power of two restores the one true Emperor. Yeah, which I guess maybe that's not. I mean, it is the same thing, and it's not because he was saying that the dyad was what powered him, right? The dyad was like the thing that like gave him back life, but it was also kind of like force drain too. I feel like that because it was basically restoring him, and like they didn't have any energy or like they could barely even stand, so he was like taking everything from both of them. So I don't know if it was the dyad in the force or if it was him just using like a because he knew all about the like Sith alchemy and all this different Sith powers, and he knew a vast majority of it. There's obviously stuff that was lost to time, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know. That's something to theorize on, I guess, whether like it was like the power between like Rey and Kylo or Ben, or if it was actually like him, because he starts doing that before he even knows they're a dyad in the Force, and then once he gets the like the life back, he's like, oh, a dyad in the Force, you know. So I don't know. I don't know. But the next one we have is force concealment or like force clouding, which I believe was kind of done first. I mean, I guess you can say the prequel trilogy hinted at that because Yoda goes, the dark side clouds so much, you know, we're clouded by the dark side, right? And then you get in the Bane trilogy, Bane explaining to Palpatine how to basically like incognito mask that they're like the dark side, or that they have like essentially high power levels, right? You know, so there's one instance where Palpatine and Darth Plagueis go to Coruscant and they meet with Sifo Dyas, Dooku, and Qui-Gon, and nobody knows that they're Sith Lords because they've mastered the art of like deception or clouding the, because it's not really determined whether they like lower their force abilities, or at least it didn't say in the book whether they lower their force abilities, or it's just like they're able to create like almost like a cloud like around themselves, like a cloud of energy, so you can't sense the force energy of somebody else. But I don't really know if it says that. Yeah, Darth Nihilus is probably the best known user of force drain. Yeah, I mean, he's iconic for that. I think that's half the reason why people find him so cool, because if he didn't have force drain, I don't think he would be as cool. I mean, his mask is cool, but yeah, not as well known of a Sith Lord without the force drain. But yeah, force clouding super cool. I like that you can kind of be like it's like incognito mode essentially for dark side users. I think everybody can use this ability, but it's definitely more of a dark side. I haven't really known of Jedi to like mask their presence or like really having a need to do that. The dark side does that because they have to hide in the shadows. Even with Kiadi Mooney saying like the Sith have been extinct for a millennia. They weren't extinct for a millennia. They were just really good at hiding and masking their dark side energy. So definitely coolness points for this one. I'm probably gonna put it right underneath Force Repulse because it is a cool ability, but I think there's way cooler of abilities to go on than this. Um, and then next we have Transfer or like Essence Transfer, which essentially I haven't read the Dark Empire comic line, but I know it happens a lot where like Palpatine's essentially like cloning himself and transferring his essence, and then we obviously have that with the sequel trilogy too, where Palpatine was trying to find like a suitable host with Snoke, and then once Snoke died, he tried to basically create a son with an unknown person we don't still don't know, and then he was trying to transfer his essence into that, but the sun wasn't force sensitive and couldn't basically withstand the power. That was the problem that the Emperor had, is that he was so powerful and his midi-chlorians just couldn't mix with just anybody, and Snoke was the only really person that was able to kind of do that with, and even then like pseudo, right? But force, I'm kind of gonna go on the the words of Plagueis, right? Force transfer or force essence is a cheap imitation to like continue life. Only through like the power of fully manipulating midi chlorians can you like truly like unlock the power of the dark side, right? Because that was like the whole thing, is like Plagueis thought like it was almost like a cheap like card trick or something like that. He wanted to learn, and that's why he involuntarily helped in the creation of Anakin, because him and Palpatine were manipulating midi-chlorians on his like underground facility with like Venemus and a lot of other uh like plants and animals and all that sort of stuff. He was trying to, I remember once, I think it was, I'm trying to think, I don't know if it was a Doug but he was experimenting with a Doug because they had like high they didn't have high midi-chlorian counts, but they weren't susceptible to being like succumbed by the force. Like they had a high force resistance, but they couldn't like wield the force, so to speak, or they weren't known to wield the force. So there was a lot of that going on. So it's an interesting concept for sure. But again, I think I'm gonna probably throw it into Sith Lord. Probably, I don't know. Is it cooler than Force Drain or is it not? I don't know. I don't know. I think I'm gonna put it. I'm gonna put it above because I think it is cooler, just in the fact that like I do like that in the Dark Empire. Dark Empire is like really freaking wonky of a storyline, but it is kind of cool that Palpatine was like, oh, just strike me down and I'll just transfer my essence into somebody, into another clone or another this or that. I think it does have a coolness factor a little bit there with that. But next we have Force Stasis, which is not to be confused with Force Slow, which I initially thought was the same thing. This one we've seen a lot. This can also be a light side ability. We've seen Cal Kestis use it, mostly for like parkouring stuff, right? Where he slows down fans so he can get across. It's a video game kind of. I don't think you can do it in the Force Unleashed. I don't remember Starkiller being able to freeze anything. I know Vader's done it. And I'm trying to think. Oh, Yoda. Yoda did it to Ventress, and the very first, in the very first Clone Wars episode, where she tries to strike down King Katunko, and she's like midway through, and he like freezes her for a second, so she can't slice him. And then that reminds me also of Satil Shan when she's fighting Malgus in the. I'm trying to. It's not Deceived, but it's one of the old Republic cinematics. Maybe it's Hope. I know it's like another word. Like all of them were like one word things, but he like tries to like stab her, and she like grabs like the lightsaber with the Force. So like the lightsaber's like here, and he's trying to push him back and stuff. And then I believe Ezra also does it in Ahsoka. I could be wrong about that, but I want to say I remember him, like, oh man, I'm blanking on her name. Who's the acolyte? That's Ray Stevenson's. Is it Shin? No, Shin. There we go. Shin Hati. He deflects Shin Hati from stabbing. I don't know if it's him or if it's Sabine. But yeah, super cool force ability. I don't think we see it a whole bunch. We've been seeing a little bit more. I think Kylo Ren was kind of one of the first to kind of use it, and they've been sprinkling it in everywhere else. This one, I think I'm gonna put it right underneath Force Repulse because it is a cool ability, but there are again cooler abilities in my opinion out there um, that can just I think that top that like if I were to like be like, oh, would you rather have Force Repulse or Force like Stasis? I think I'm gonna choose Force Repulse. I don't know about you guys, but yeah. And then we got oh, Satil Shan uses the Force to absorb the block with the lightsaber, same as Yoda with the Force lightning. Oh, okay, so hers isn't stasis. Hers is like the oh man, why am I blanking on that? Uh, you got me curious now. I forget what that ability. That's a light side ability. Yoda Force absorption. No, absorption. Let's see. T2 Menace. Oh, okay, that's what it is, right. Oh, look, it even has a picture of her doing it. Okay, so I thought that was more stasis, but she's using T2 Menace um, to block that. That makes sense. That makes sense, because, like, Vader also... I guess that also could be a dark side ability, because you see him blocking, like, Saber Bolt. He's using lightning and everything. Holy crap. Oh, Dark Sith Lord Keldor. Okay, okay. We see Vader doing that with Han Solo and Empire. Okay, so my what stasis is like Kylo in Battlefront 2. Yeah, I think Kylo is definitely the most known for using stasis, or at least we've seen him use it the most with like freezing Rey, or like when Finn or not Finn, when Poe's trying to shoot him in the Force Awakens, and he like pauses like him and the bolt and stuff like that. Don't get me wrong, it's a cool ability. I just think when it compares to like the rest of the Force abilities, I probably have the ones that are above it before that. Obviously like bleeding or crystal is like it is a Force ability and it isn't Force ability, but yeah, the Force Scream, Repulse, Crush, Shatterpoint, Thought Bomb, Choke, and Force Lightning, I think, are cooler abilities. But yeah, the last two that we have, these were interesting ones, and probably the ones I know the least a bit about. The first one is Sith Alchemy, and I don't know, this one is kind of I feel like it's a tricky subject because we really don't see it a lot, right? We see it a little bit in, again, like I said, Clone Wars when I was talking about it earlier. Palpatine and Dooku, because the bond that Dooku has with Yoda, he can kind of, it creates a stronger like Sith alchemy, like the presence that he's trying to do. And so he disguised, they do the ritual. You have to like force lightning, like you have to slice your arm, or not arm, but you have to basically slice your hand, drip blood into like the altar, and then you have to force lightning it to create kind of like an illusion. And he creates an illusion with Sifo Dyas, where like Sidious is trying to tempt Yoda and the dark side, and Yoda's like, no, he's like you're obviously, you died long ago. He doesn't fall for it, obviously, because Yoda's awesome. But this ability is really interesting. We also see it a little bit in Rebels when Palpatine's trying to get into the world between worlds, because it's not really said in like the movies or anything, but Palpatine's definitely knows of the world between worlds and is constantly trying to get into that so he can play puppet master and manipulate certain events. And my guess is basically just do some bad stuff and become ruler of the universe, even more so than what, or maybe even ruler of time, because that it manipulates certain events. And I don't even want to think that would be an interesting theory. Like, what if Palpatine was actually able to like control the world between worlds, it would basically just be like game over. I'd be like Thanos with the Infinity Stones, or anything like that. Like he could just make anything the way he wanted it to be, and if any events played out not to his liking, he could just go there and essentially change whatever happened. So it's basically a game ender, which I think is pretty cool. I think Sith Alchemy is pretty cool. I just want to know kind of like differences, and maybe that might be a video for another time that I'll do more research and write about. But like the difference between like Sith alchemy and like Night Sister magic, right? Because from what we're learning in Ahsoka, the Force pseudo kind of arrived from the Night Sisters, coming from like the great beyond, the other planet that happened in Ahsoka, and they traveled to the Star Wars galaxy and kind of created, or at least that was my understanding when I watched it. They created, not maybe created the Force, but like a virgins that created that, because like I think the Wills obviously created the Force, because the Wills were like supposed to be these all powerful, like essentially like the god of Star Wars universe, right? It's like the Wills are what, they're like the storytellers of the universe, you know. So see what you guys are saying in chat. I put Repulse up there with Force Lightning myself. Yeah, Repulse is a really cool ability. I don't know. I feel like Shatterpoint, Force Choke, Force Crush, I feel like those are just more iconic than Force Repulse, but it definitely does have a good spot in my heart too, just from playing the Force Unleashed games, and like that being one of, if not my favorite Star Wars video game is the Force Unleashed. It definitely has a special place in my heart for sure. Would you say Darth Momin's helmet was Sith alchemy? See, to be honest with you, I don't know if I know enough about it to speak about it. Because I know that he was kind of like an ancient Sith, right? And then like he was trying to get Vader to like put on the helmet, right, and like basically control him and things like that. I would, from everything that I've heard, I would say that is more Sith alchemy. It's almost like I would say maybe not like so much as like a holocron, where like the Sith could like imbue themselves with trapped within. But even that, I would imagine, would use Sith alchemy, being able to like basically entrap yourself to live forever. Because like the Sith can't be like Force ghosts, right? Like they can't materialize once gone. But the holocrons were the way that they could kind of cheat that system, right? Where they could like imbue themselves within an object using alchemy. So I would say yes. I think, again, I don't really know much about, because that's a comic line, right? Or is it from Vader Immortals? I don't remember. I haven't played Vader Immortals because I don't have VR, and then I want to say that's from a comic though, with Darth Momin. But yeah, I could definitely foresee that being more Sith alchemy, and something I think that should be explored. It might be a little too out there for people, and I think that's why it maybe like Sith alchemy isn't explored, or maybe it's only in like video games or like Old Republic knowledge, because people like like that's not interesting to like mainstream people. Like mainstream people care about like Baby Yoda and like how cute he is and stuff like that. Like the Sweaties are more interested in that stuff. But I'm hoping that maybe either in Dave Filoni's movie or Ahsoka season 2, because we still don't really know what Dave Filoni's movie is going to be about. He might be about Ahsoka and like battling Thrawn, and that might be like the next movie. But it could also be something completely different, or something that's set up from the series of Ahsoka. Like Ahsoka could just have 2 seasons, and then that could set up some like almost like Avengers level conflict, or that all that can be resolved in Ahsoka season 2, and then we get something completely new from Dave Filoni and his new movie, because we haven't really determined that. But I think that is where Sith alchemy could be really like fall into line, because at the end you see Ray Stevenson's character, you know, and you see the brother, the father, and the daughter, or like what the resemblance of what was the daughter, and we see some like light off in the distance. Like we could totally see like they're teetering on the lines of like Night Sister magic and like Sith alchemy, so we could totally see something there, which I think would be cool. But I don't know. I mean, maybe it's just me because I find this interesting. I think I'm gonna put it and the Force Unleashed category, because I don't know, there's just some cool, like, I think it's cool because we know so little about Sith alchemy. But and we've the times that we see, like, I don't know, even in that picture right there, like Palpatine and Dooku like force lightning, like basically like a what looks like a bird feeder for like water or something like that, like our bird a bird watering hole, and just force lightning and like conjuring up different stuff. Like that seems, I don't know, that seems kind of sick to me. So I think it's gonna go into the cooler side of force abilities. And then this last one, I don't know if I heard you guys, or you guys have heard of this, because I've never heard of this force ability. We kind of get it a little bit in the Force Unleashed with, man, I am just blanking on names tonight. Uh, what is his name? Kazdan Paratus. There we go. Whew. I was like, if I can't even get one name tonight, I'm in trouble. But yeah, Kazdan Paratus, and damn, missed a lot. We'll have to rewatch. Yeah, we're kind of going through these. Well, I say we're going through these fast. We're already at an hour. I thought we were at like 20 minutes. Holy crap. But yeah, definitely catch it on the rewatch, Charlie, for sure. But Kazdan Paratus kind of pseudo used this ability, and I'm gonna look at it on the on my card because I this word is, it's Meku Deru, which essentially is the ability that you can tap into mechanical figures, or like basically make organic like abomination. Like the Sith used this to create, and I pulled this up here. It's a pretty wild ability. Meku Deru was a dark side power that bestowed an intuitive understanding of mechanical systems upon the user. So I thought this was like, okay, so like, yeah, you can like inherently understand like what droids say, right? Or like understand, like maybe if you've never flown a ship, like maybe you can understand how ships work and how they fly. And that's how Anakin, like you see in Phantom Menace, when the pilot of like the Nubian cruiser is like talking with him, and he's like, oh, he's like, that one controls the pitch and this one does that, and he's like, oh wow, he's like, you're a quick learner, like you already know all this stuff. It's through like the abilities. I think this is a little bit different because again, this is like dark side. This is a dark side power, but like basically it was saying like you can influence over inanimate objects and robotic constructions, creating like Sith spawn mutants and techno beast, which like they look pretty wild, man. Like here, let me show you the Sith spawn, which I believe this is like, yeah, see like a lot of legends. They have some in canon, I guess. What's the canon? Because I didn't know they were. I thought that was just a legends. We're affiliated with the Sith, the Temple Detention Center, blah blah blah. No, Crime Lord. Okay, so yeah, it's just probably in like a book or something. Yeah, Dooku Jedi Lost in the Lost Scripts. That's cool. I didn't know that the Sith spawn were canon, but yeah, these guys look pretty gnarly, and it's crazy that they're basically just created from like the dark side of the Force. You also have, here, let me go back. You have like these like robotic like techno beasts too, which I thought kind of were like in the Force Unleashed 2, you have to fight these creatures that are like, I presumed they were powered by the Force, but they could like go invisible and like stab you and like go back and forth. Like this looks horrifying. This isn't the same thing, but let me here to like stealth Force Unleashed 2 stealth enemy, because I don't think they're droids. I don't believe they're terror troopers. Yeah, terror troopers, an experimental class of elite soldiers by the Imperial Apartment. Shortly after the Civil War began, with the founding of the Alliance, Darth Vader dispatched several terror troopers to assist Boba Fett. Okay, so yeah, basically this is the Force Unleashed, but powers and ability. Let's see if they're like powered, but possess stun blasters and some. So okay, so no, these don't look like they're powered by like the dark side of the Force, but this honestly is what I thought when like they said techno beasts. These are just troopers, but they kind of have that. Like, look at this one, and then look at that. They kind of have similar vibes. Now, this one's definitely way more nightmare fuel than the other one. This almost looks like something Sid would create in Toy Story or something like that. But yeah, to be able to create basically beings from the dark side of the Force, I thought was a pretty gnarly thing that we don't get to see a lot of other than in like Legends content. And I guess in Dooku Jedi Lost, which is also another amazing book that I haven't read yet, but everybody gives it really high praise when I read it. Or sorry, when I list it off and talk about stuff I want to read in the future. But yeah, this is a that's gonna be the last Force ability, and I don't know. This one's cool, but I feel like it also goes along with like the Force drain, and like Force slow. Like it's cool, but it's like I don't know, meh. So I'm gonna put it at this, but this is kind of where we're looking at for most things. We got Force lightning, Force choke, the thought bomb, Shatterpoint, Force Crush, and Sith Alchemy being at the top of the list. We have Bleeding the Saber, Force Scream, Repulse, Force Stasis, and then Force basically concealment, or like masking, clouding. They use totally different words with that. And then lastly, we got Force Storm, Essence Transfer, Force Drain, Force Slow. And then we have, oh god, I'm gonna butcher this. I gotta look. Meku Deru, which is like such a crazy name. Meku Deru. I guess mech being, because it's mechanical and being able to control those parts. But all these are interesting. Some of these I didn't know about. Like the Meku Deru, couldn't really tell you. Force Slow was also a new one. Like I knew that there were abilities like that, but I didn't have. Because we don't see that a lot in like canon Star Wars, like movies or anything like that. Let me see what you guys are saying. Didn't know what it was called, but the junk enemies in Raxus Prime are said to be powered by the Force. Yeah, and see that Stanley's. That's what I thought of when I thought of this ability. I don't know. Maybe it's because like Jedi and Sith share a lot of Force abilities, right? It's just kind of what you do with said Force ability that determines whether it's light or dark side. But that was the first being like seeing like the Techno Beast. I was like, man, those really, they don't look like the enemies on Raxus Prime, but they function the same way. But I don't know if it's different because Kazdan Paratus was basically using the Force to like hold them together, whereas like this isn't like Force creating life, but it's like a pseudo version of that, like almost like a Frankenstein's monster sort of version of it. So maybe that's what it is. But yeah, I totally got Force Unleashed vibes with Raxus Prime. You guys are talking about the cloak troopers. Yeah, it's just a cloak suit. Yeah. Toy Story reference. Yeah, I mean, tell me I'm wrong, Charlie, with the Toy Story reference. Tell me I'm wrong. Did you do Force Possession? Yeah, I mean, I guess we can talk about like Force Possession being like, but it's kind of, and there are definitely way more Force abilities out there, but they all kind of fall under these are what I felt like were like the main ones, and I'm sure I'm missing a few. I'm sure somebody in chat will be like, you completely forgot about this one. Like, what the heck are you doing? But yeah, Force Possession is kind of an interesting one, right? I would kind of almost, I don't know, it kind of has the same thing as like Essence Transfer. It kind of, I feel like, has the same thing with like Force Slow, where you're maybe not necessarily possessing somebody, but you're taking control of their body to make them like break down and like move slower and like physically and mentally. So it is kind of a weird like possession sort of thing. But then that also kind of goes into like Night Sister magic too, because what we have in Rebels with like Kanan and Sabine, when Ezra goes to kind of confront Maul on Dathomir, the Night Sisters possess Kanan and Sabine. So like that also kind of gets into a slippery slope of, is that really like dark side magic, or is that just magic that's within the Star Wars universe? Charlie goes, that's XR Coon stuff. Yeah. I mean, that's a solid list. I'm still rewatching what I missed. Sounds accurate, dude. Nice. I'm glad you're liking it. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. This has been a really fun. I didn't think it was going to be an hour long. I thought it was maybe 30 minutes, maybe 40 at most. But I've really enjoyed talking with all you guys, and I think this was it was a. We're not going to be doing the tier list rankings all the time on the Din transmissions, but I was trying to think of a fun way to kind of commemorate the dark side and celebrate, the passing of James Earl Jones. I was like, what better way than literally celebrating dark side force abilities? Because James Earl Jones is the dark side, man. He's Darth Vader. He's the voice of one of the most iconic villains and pseudo villains, right? Because Darth Vader's kind of a villain. He's kind of not a villain. Pseudo villains of all time. So I really had fun talking with you guys, Charlie, Percy, Stanley, as you guys in the chat. It's been great, and even the people who have been lurking, because we've had quite a few people in here, been fluctuating. So yeah, I'll probably read a little bit more y'all's comments. I see a few more, and then we're gonna probably close it out for this week's. But yeah, I wasn't sure if you wanted to include magic as dark side. Yeah, magic is on a slippery slope, and that's why I kind of did like a little bit with the Sith alchemy. I would even consider like force slow to be a little bit of magic, because you're like poisoning like you're not really like, because like it doesn't also like there's no like getting into the nitty gritties of like force slow, like what goes into doing that. Are you manipulating like the midi chlorians and like poisoning the midi chlorians in somebody's body to like wear them down over time? Is there something like for instance, like the thought bomb, you have to do like a ritual beforehand for it to actually like work? Is that the same thing with like force drain as well, or do you just have that ability within yourself to like pull midi chlorians or like force essence away from somebody if you have a strong enough connection with the force? Like a little bit too much undetermined there. So I try to do it, dabble in a little bit, but yeah, he pulled that on Yavin, on the Yavin back in the day. Wait, what, Charlie? The Yavin? Who pulled what? Are you talking about XR Kun? Yeah, XR Kun's a badass, man. He did some crazy stuff. But yeah, I think we're gonna end it there. I think that was a good podcast. Let me pop back on the main screen with you guys. And love that my screen. I can not get Streamlabs to not freeze my screen when I go back from streaming on the main screen to my smaller screen. It just wants to freeze it every time. XR Kun trying to cheat death. Yeah, I mean, I feel like every Sith Lord tries to cheat death, right? I think Plagueis was the closest to doing it, because even like Vitiate, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure Vitiate just like force drained people and like entire planets and stuff like that to stay alive for as long as he did. But it wasn't. I mean, it was extending his life, but it kind of wasn't. I don't know. That's again another kind of slippery slope. But yeah, I feel like every Sith, and Plagueis was like the closest to kind of either learning it or relearning it, because he knew that there were Sith out there who had achieved it, like Vitiate, but didn't. It was like lost in time or battle or whatever. So, Charlie, I appreciate you, man. Appreciate you hanging out and hanging with us and all that. So thank you guys for watching. We'll be back next week with another topic on Din transmissions. Let me know what you think down in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear your opinions. If you don't want to list out all of the force abilities I have here, just maybe hit me with your favorite 3. I'd love to hear. There's no wrong answers or right answers. This is all subjective, right? Just of what you think is cool and what's not cool. But yeah, leave a comment down below, and thank you guys for watching, and as always,